Happy Friday, everybody. Hope everybody's doing all right, getting ready for the weekend. I'm Mark Garrett with 21st Century, and we have an exciting fiber training today for you guys. You have Jared Edwards from Global Solutions, and he's going to walk us through this quick 30-minute training session on Cleerline Fiber, why to use fiber, specifically Cleerline. We're going to show you exactly how to terminate it. Everything that you need in a quick 30 minutes. We're going to have this recorded and on our VCC. You'll be able to access it on our YouTube page as well. So we also have a few poll questions that I'm going to have go live here. If you could just do me a favor, answer those. There's 3 quick questions that'll help us with when we contact you on selling fiber. And if you need any more additional hands-on training, we could always provide that for you as well. So excited to have Jared Edwards here. Jared, thank you so much, man.
You bet. Yeah, thank you guys for hosting. I appreciate the time, and thanks everyone for joining us today, and appreciate your time as well. I know it's always valuable, and sometimes Fridays can seem like a Monday as hectic as they get. So I appreciate you joining us this morning for a few minutes. And we're going to keep this pretty simple, pretty high level, and just kind of go over some basics, and then really kind of show you what the magic of Cleerline has been able to accomplish with some of their patents. So I'll talk for a few minutes, and then we'll show how we actually terminate things, and then we'll, of course, leave some time for some questions as well. So real quickly, we're going to talk about why fiber, why would you use it, and where would you use it, and we'll talk about that with some use cases towards the end. We'll talk about the different types of fiber, and then the brilliance of what Cleerline has done to traditional fiber. And the reason I say it that way is because if you've ever done anything with traditional fiber, what you're about to see with the way that it works and the way that you terminate it is completely different. And for those that have experience with traditional fiber, they usually go, whoa, this is totally different and very much way easier than traditional fiber. If you don't have any experience with traditional fiber, that's okay. This is, you won't have a reference point to go, wow, how different this is, but you'll still see that it's very simple, and I'm sure all of you have terminated cat cable, and you'll see that this is even easier and faster than terminating cat. So that said, where is it that we think about using fiber in our installations? Well, typically the places are going to be, long runs, long distances, high bandwidth, video over IP distribution sometimes, those cases where we feel like we only have an option of using fiber. But my question is why wouldn't we use it everywhere? We should use it to every single network location, whether there's just one location around the house or the office building, or whether there's multiple. We should use it to every TV location, and I'll explain that in detail in a little bit. Excuse me, but you want to try and use every TV location. Essentially, what we're eventually going to get to is wherever you pull cat now, you should also be pulling fiber. Whether you're going to light it up currently and use it or not is kind of, a case-by-case basis. But you really should be pulling it and using it everywhere you use cat. And one of the reasons for that is because of the advantages of what fiber gets. Yes, we all know it can go long distances, and yes, we all know that it can carry lots and lots of bandwidth. But it also has some properties that make it impervious to lightning and power surges and static discharges and EMI and RF and water corrosion and ground loops. All of these things that you have with cat and regular cables go away with fiber. There's a couple of unique things to Cleerline's SSF fiber as well, and those are the last 3 on the bottom row there. 225-pound pull strength as opposed to about 25 pounds of cat pull strength. Really, really tight bends, and I'll demonstrate that here in a few minutes, but you can literally tie this fiber in several knots and pull on it, and it still doesn't break, which, of course, is very different than traditional fiber. And, of course, it's really fast and easy to terminate. So to just kind of set a baseline really quickly, I want to cover a couple of things about the different types of fiber that are out there just so that we have a baseline. And like I said, some people are still very much getting used to fiber and what all the terminology is. And part of what I want to accomplish today is a little bit of education about that. So the basic components are obviously the cable. There's the termination ends, and there's several different types of those. And then there's the SFP module, and of course, there's several different types of those. So how do you know which one you use? Well, there's a couple ways. One, obviously, it's going to depend upon the application. But two, we also have a support team that can help with those answers as well. So when you talk about fiber modes, and I realize we're going quickly here because we only have so much time, but there's a whole lot more information available, and of course you can ask questions. So if you've got questions, put them in the chat. We can open it up after we're done with the termination demo and go from there. So please bring your questions. So fiber modes, there's two basic modes. There's single mode and multi-mode, and most of you have probably heard those terms before. Single mode essentially is a much smaller glass tube where when the light goes down it, it doesn't really bounce around very much. And as a result, it can then go much further. And those are, single mode is generally what's used for really, really long distances. Multi-mode is a larger glass tube. And when I say larger, I mean it's still smaller than a hair on your head. But it is a larger tube. So as the light goes down it, as you can see in the graphic there, it kind of has a tendency to bounce around a little bit more. So as a result, it does not typically go as far, but can still carry the same amounts of high bandwidth. And we'll talk about a general rule of where to use these in most cases. On top of single mode and multi-mode, there's what's called simplex and duplex. And this refers to the jackets or the number of jackets and the number of fibers that you have. Simplex refers to one jacket with either one or multiple, what they call a breakout cable, where there'll be multiple fibers in it. You can have multi-mode or single mode inside a simplex jacket. But typically it's just a single fiber. And it's generally one-way communication. Now, you can get two-way with using the right SFP module. So if you run into a job site where simplex has already been pulled and that's the only option you have, but you need bidirectional communication, you can still accomplish that. Most commonly and more used is duplex, which is two jackets kind of fused together. And you can just take them just like you can with regular patch cables a lot of times. You can take and peel them apart, but it is typically two fibers in each in a jacket. And the reason why this is so common is because it automatically has built-in two-way communication. Obviously, one side goes one direction and the other side goes back the other. And that's why a lot of times multi-mode duplex is used inside of a home or a building. It's just real easy. This is probably the most common type of fiber cable you'll have. Termination ends, there are several different types. We won't go into why they are, other than different companies have made different designs over the years. The one that's most common is the LC, mainly because it is the physically smallest connection. They all connect in the same way, and they all do the same thing as an end result. But LC, either simplex or duplex, is by far the most common just because of its smaller size. And then, of course, there's SFP modules as well. That is what the terminated end connects into, that then slides into the network switch. There's two types of SFPs. There's SFP, which usually stands or denotes it's 1 gigabit, and then SFP plus usually means it's a 10 gigabit capable module for bandwidth. So the connection sequence, of course, is terminated end into an SFP module, which then goes into the SFP slot on the switch. Okay? So pretty simple when you lay it all out. I know there's a lot of parts and pieces, but when you start to lay it out, it actually starts to make sense and go together. So changing gears a little bit, what does Cleerline do differently? Well, they have a couple of proprietary pieces that go around the glass core and the cladding. And if you look at this graphic here on the right-hand side, you have what we call traditional fiber, or basically everyone else's fiber. And it starts with a 900 micron buffer, which is a kind of like a hard plastic. Then there's a hard acrylate inside that plastic, and then there's the core and the cladding. The hard acrylate is also like a kind of a hard plastic that you can't really remove without splicing or cutting it off with, just like you would splice any speaker wire or anything like that. The brilliance of this, though, is the glass core and the cladding around that core is the exact same thing in Cleerline. So it's the same sizes, it can carry the same bandwidth, go the same distances as any other traditional fiber. In fact, you can use pretty much any terminated end on it as well because it's the same glass core. The difference is in that SSF polymer that goes around the cladding, which adds a layer of protection. So it makes it so that you can bend it, or you can tie it in a knot and pull it, or you can jam it into your hand and it doesn't break. And so it's very, very flexible and very easy to work with because of that proprietary polymer. Then on top of that, there's a soft peel acrylate instead of a hard acrylate. And I'll show you what that does. You just peel that off with your finger, and I'll show you that here in just a moment with the termination. So the brilliance of it is that it's compatible with every type of fiber out there because the glass is the exact same. But the outside and how you terminate it and how you work with it and how you can pull it is very, very different and much easier. As a matter of fact, SSF stands for Stronger, Safer, Faster. And what they refer to is stronger than cat cable, safer than traditional fiber, and faster to terminate. So, a couple of things that we do offer. It's not just indoor fiber. Of course, we have a bunch of outdoors and a bunch of breakouts and micro distributions and, direct burial. Excuse me. Excuse me. Direct burial as well. So just about anything for any application you could need, we have you covered. We obviously offer a termination kit as well because you've got to have a way to terminate it. There are two termination kits. One we call Basic, the other we call Pro. Basic is the one that pretty much everyone needs because that is all that you need to terminate Cleerline. If you need to terminate Cleerline and traditional, then you want to buy the Pro kit, and it has extra stuff in it that is required for traditional cable. But for most of the time, the standard termination kit is fine. We also have a bunch of media converters because obviously you might need to convert from one type of fiber to another, or one type of fiber to RJ45, or add a PoE something or other. So we have a bunch of different media converters that are available, pretty much everything you could imagine, so that you can convert to or from whatever it is you need to convert to or from on that particular job site. We also, of course, have a bunch of different SFP modules. Depending upon what your needs are there, we've got you covered with SFP modules as well. And then we also have a bunch of network switches. Now, these are just simple unmanaged switches. Some of them are non-PoE, some of them are PoE. There's usually a PoE version of, or PoE plus version of just about every one of these. But as you can see, there's anything from fiber in to 4 output, 4 RJ45 out, 8. There's different form factors. There's indoor switches. There's outdoor rugged switches. And we'll talk about use cases for those here in just a second. But bottom line is, again, even with small network switches that will allow you to run fiber to that location and then convert over and have either just standard RJ45 out or RJ45 with PoE plus, we've got that covered as well. We also do patch cables. There are a ton of pre-made patch cables in different sizes, different multi-mode, single mode, all that type of thing. But we also will do custom lengths that are pre-terminated. So if you need 482 feet of a particular type of cable and you don't want to terminate it, no problem. We will custom cut that, pre-terminate it, and send it out for you. So if there's something we can do to help there, please let us know. All right, lastly, before we get into showing the termination, is the uses of today. I just want to throw a couple of scenarios out there. As a general rule of thumb, and this is, of course, not always the case, but as a general rule, single mode simplex is generally brought to the home or the business, and then multi-mode is generally used inside the home or the business, especially if you're doing network or AV equipment inside that location. Again, this isn't always the case, but just as kind of like a general rule, this is typically how it works. So where do we use these things? Well, connecting network switches, of course, if you've got large switches all in a single rack location, but you need large amounts of bandwidth to go between the switches, maybe for a video over IP installation or something similar to that, then fiber is a great way to accomplish that. I would also submit that if you have a main network location and a bunch of secondary network locations, you're going to want to run fiber to every one of those secondary network locations. You never know how much bandwidth you're going to need between each spot, and you might as well have the infrastructure in order to do that wherever you need to have that kind of bandwidth or future-proofing ability, or I should say and/or future-proofing. I mentioned earlier that you wanted to run it to every display, and that is certainly true. If just like running cat cable to the back box, you're going to want to run fiber to it as well, because at some point there will become some sort of new streaming service that comes out that cat cable may or may not be able to handle, and you don't want to have your customer stuck. So even if you don't use the fiber, you want to pull it to every single location. And certainly as we get into more sales things, if we have more time, we can talk about some ways that you can talk to your customer about that. But you really do want to try and pull fiber to every location, even behind every TV. And this is kind of what it could look like. Fiber goes into one of the small switches. Out of the switch, you can, of course, connect your smart TV, your video over IP distribution system, if you're using one of those, or even a local source, Roku, Apple TV, whatever the case happens to be. So that's just an example of how this could look. Last example I want to give you is outdoor gates and that type of location, whether it's an outdoor gate, whether it's a outbuilding, a barn, or a secondary residence or secondary home on the property. Whatever the case is, if it's a longer run, you're generally going to have a gate controller, some sort of intercom, some sort of camera, maybe some automation out there. And fiber is a great use for that. Again, this is kind of how it could look. Fiber goes into a hardened switch or a rugged switch, and then out to your gate controller, your camera, outdoor Wi-Fi, or whatever it is you've got that's out there. Again, not saying that you have to you do it this way, just trying to spur some thought and some ideas as to, everybody thinks about fiber as a future-proof solution, and it absolutely can be that, but it's also a use-it-today type solution as well. So with that, I did want to throw this up real quick. I did mention earlier we have a support team that can help with all the different parts and pieces, and you can say, hey, this is the kind of application I've got. What do I need? And we'll help you out with it. Works really, really well. So with that, I'm going to switch over real quickly here and go to a termination spot where I can, well, let's see here. See if I can get this. There we go. All right. Hopefully you can see that all right.
Yep.
We good? Okay. Let me move my microphone just a little bit here and switch spots. Okay, so what I've got here is some multi-mode fiber with just a bare end. I've got a light, which we call a visual fault locator. So I'm going to turn that on, and you can see here now that there's a red light coming out of the tip of this cable here. What we need for termination is just a couple of simple things. I'm going to need some clippers, and all of this comes in the termination kit. So I'm going to need those. I'm going to need some shears. And then, of course, I'm going to need, as the end result, I'm going to need a cleaver. And I'll show you exactly how this works. So with Cleerline, it's very simple. I want to take my oops, sorry about that. I want to take my cutters, and I want to cut back about 1 inch to 1.5 inches or so with the very top notch that you see in these clippers here. So I just want to take and maybe cut that about, if it's not going to catch on me. Something like that. Just snip it like that. And you see the jacket just came right off of there. So all of these yellow things that you see are the pull yarns. And you can still see that there is a fiber, the actual fiber right here sticking out. Now what you see, and I don't know how well this shows up on camera, but it's a little blue fiber. And this is that soft peel acrylate that I was talking about. So with these yarns, you can either cut them off now. You can either cut them off now, or you can cut them off after you slide everything on. with this, in this example, we're going to use an LC connector. So here's my connector right here. So the first thing I'm going to do is just take and unscrew the boot off of it and slide that down over my fiber. Just like that. We're just going to let it slide down the cable a little bit. I'm going to take and cut these off right now just because it makes it a little easier for me, but you can do it either before or after. And I just cut the yarns off, and there you go. You just discard them. Now, what I like to do is just take and hold the end of the fiber with the tips of my thumb and forefinger, and you just peel off this soft peel right off the end of the fiber. It does take a little bit of getting used to, and I mean a little bit. Like it takes you once or twice, and you've got the feel of it. And now all of that is gone, and it's just the raw fiber that's sticking out there. Now, it still has their proprietary polymer around it. So for those of you that have used traditional fiber, if you did that at this point and put it into your hand, you're going to get glass fiber into your hand, and it's going to break. And as you can see here, it just bends. None of that happens. You can see it just bending. It does not break. So the next thing I need to do is cleave it. And the cleaver is pretty simple to use. I'm going to put the fiber in here, put the correct measurement on because of the type of connector I'm using. All of those instructions are in the box. I'm going to just cleave it real quickly here, which cuts it to the correct length. Now, it looks like it may be off, but if you can see on my hand, it's still shining the light through there. So it's cut it correctly. Now I'm going to take my connector, and there's a little door that opens up on the top. You slide the fiber into the connector, and as you can see here, there's a little bit of a window right here, this clear plastic piece right here. As you slide the fiber in, it will go from a bright light to a dim light, and that's when you know it's slid in all the way. You take this little slider and lock it into place. You just slide that up and lock it into place, close the little door, slide the boot up, and twist it on, and you're done. You've terminated fiber. You can see it on my hand there. And you see very little through the window. That's a good connection. And that's it. That is all you have to do to terminate Cleerline fiber. So, with that said, any questions? Let's open it up to questions now at this point.
That was quick and easy.
Yeah.
Presentation.
It's pretty simple.
So yeah, a few questions we have here. First of all, let's go. We'll start the termination kit goes. Everything that you just showed us comes within that kit. The shears, the cleaver, the tester kit, or the IR. What do you call that little thing? The identifier.
The VFL. They call it a VFL. Yep. Yeah,
that all comes in the termination kit.
Yes, it does. There's a few other pieces in there as well. There's actually a little bottle for discarding pieces that you cut off. There's also a couple of tip cleaners so that if you're handling the connector and your finger touches the tip, you can actually use the little cleaner that's in there. It'll clean the very tip of the connector. So yeah, the bottom line is yes, everything you need is in that kit.
We have a question here from Les. So you don't have to actually clean the fiber itself.
That is correct.
Okay.
That is one of the big differences between this and traditional. You do not have to polish it or clean it with alcohol or anything like that. You do exactly what I just did.
So yeah, a couple more. Going back to kind of the parts and pieces. Like the SFP ports, media converters. Obviously, Cleerline sells those, but if they have another brand, does it have to be proprietary? Are the electronics proprietary, or can you use any SFP or media converter?
You can. They are not proprietary.
Okay,
but they're fully open. There are some switches and some SFPs that are locked. HP and Dell and Cisco are famous for this. You have to use their SFP with their switch. but there is also an open architecture, which is what pretty much everybody else uses, which means that if you could use our fiber, but if you're going to use a Cisco switch, for example, you're probably going to have to use a Cisco SFP.
Got it.
But as far as ours go, there is nothing proprietary or locked about them.
I guess the reason that came up is just because of the fiber, it being the build of it was with that polymer. Think, well, maybe you have to use a specific SFP port or electronics with that, but that's not the case. So that's good.
It's not. We do sell the ends, and I highly recommend you use our LC or SC or ST connectors. But once that's on there, they go into any SFP just like any other LC connector or anything does.
So recommended to use Cleerline LC SC connectors. It's just
easier and faster. It's part of a whole system. Yeah.
And then last question, you went over a couple applications. One of which looks like it was inside the house with the switches. One was an outdoor gate. What would be recommended, multi-mode or single mode for those applications? I'm pretty sure obviously the gate would be, if it's a longer distance, it would be single mode. Would it be recommended to use multi-mode inside the home?
Typically, yes, we do. And there's a couple reasons for that, especially in residences. Most of the time in there, you're going to be going either network switch to network switch, or if you're using some sort of AV over IP system that has a fiber connection on it, most all of those types of devices are set up for multi-mode connections. So that's why I throw that general rule of thumb is typically it's going to be single mode outside of the structure and multi-mode inside. Right. It's not always the case, but generally. But to answer your question about the gate, yes, depending upon the distance, then single mode may very well be appropriate for that versus multi-mode. Just kind of depends on how far you're going.
I guess, and another thing for the actual connectors itself, the SC and LC, I guess that is mostly dependent on the switch, right? But I've heard that LC is that the more popular one?
Yeah, it is, and part of the reason for that, like I mentioned, is because of its smaller physical size, especially when you start going into SFP modules and then sliding multiple SFP modules into a small location on a switch. LC is about the only one that starts to fit physically in the type of application. So it just naturally has become the kind of the go-to standard.
Well, I appreciate it very much, Jared. What we got through is in 30 minutes what we wanted to do. Love the live demo. We'll have this on our virtual conference center, be recorded. And if anybody needs any additional hands-on training, reach out to us, reach out to your 21st Century rep, and we can get that set up for you. We have all the fiber in stock now, all the parts and pieces. Jump on our website, get with your rep, and we'll get you taken care of with all of your fiber needs. So really appreciate it, Jared. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate your time this morning. Take care.
Thanks, Jared. Great job.
Thank you.